I think I need to enable it on YouTube as well, so let's just do that quickly. Let's just pull down there, switch to my streaming account. Okay, your channel. Okay, live. Can I edit the description of that, because that's an old description. Okay, cool. So I found a new feature, and let me just mute that so it doesn't go in a never-ending loop. So I can just click go live from Streamlabs, and it'll automatically push it to YouTube. I just need to edit the video description because this is all old stuff from a previous stream from I think a few weeks or months ago. Convective cells and FPS testing. Tornado, research and rescue. I'm just going to say multiple changes, going to demo for 30 minutes. Let's just click, let's copy the link, save. Drop that link in the Discord. Everyone, live now until 2050Z. Actually, remember to post the link. So let me just pull that up to Streamlabs. Show any comments? No. So what I'll do, I'll leave this open. Jason J got here before the Discord link drop. Well done. Surprised you managed to find it before I posted on Discord. I'm not actually sure how many people actually watch these videos. If I'm getting a notification on my channel, and how many from Discord and occasionally on Facebook. So I'm going to try and do, I'm working on 2 screens here, so I'm going to try and move my stream. So I've got this playing on YouTube in a separate screen so that I can see comments, but it's very distracting seeing what I did like a minute previous playing right below the screen that I'm testing the game out on. So I've been doing some play testing, so I have made a little bit of progress. Well, actually I made a fair amount of progress, and earned like $6,000 on a mission since the last stream. So I'll just show where I'm up to in terms of progress. I upgraded the engine quite a bit, 10,750 Newton meters. I don't know how that converts to horsepower, and I don't think it's a straightforward calculation. Max speed is still 85 miles an hour. We need to get $7,000 to get that up to 90. I am considering upgrading the weight of the truck just because it's a bit unstable off-road. What did I update? I think I updated the refresh rate, so now I only have to wait 3 seconds for that. Oh, sorry, no, that's the sampling rate of the probe, so it samples 3 every second. Refresh rate is at 5 seconds, and then I think a lot of these, I think I upgraded the deployment speed as well, so it only takes us 6 seconds to deploy. Let's get this screen up. So we've got 272 people in Pilot Hill. That is this area here, and let's just watch some of these cells pop up. So what I've been working on is overriding the built-in weather map that comes with Weather Maker, so that I can show cells in specific areas rather than just having the weather to sort of change. And handily built into that is the ability for the cumulonimbus clouds to have anvils, so that saves me yet another job. So WeatherMaker is an excellent library to have, and you can see there's fine details in there. You've got what they call the powdered sugar effect, because if you look at powdered sugar, while it's mostly white, you've got these subtle little shaded areas, and the people who developed the formula for calculating how much shade should go in called it the powdered sugar effect, and that's in some paper about game development. So yeah, so you can see that we get nice dark bases on the cells, and right now I'm currently getting 67 frames per second while streaming, which means I've got Google Chrome running, I'm using a laptop with the GTX 1050. It's only got 2 gig of video RAM. I do have 16 gig of what is it, DDR4 RAM. We've got this moving in right over the top of us here, and already got a wedge tornado. Looks like heading straight towards us. So you might have noticed on the previous stream I tried to demonstrate this, but when I try and drive up to the cells, they'd be all misaligned with the tornadoes, and I finally figured out the reason for that yesterday, I believe it was. And the reason for that is it treats the center of the map when you specify a texture for the for where the clouds should form, and what it does is it always assumes your perspective is from the center of that image, essentially. So when I was driving, no matter where I was on the map, it was rendering these clouds as if I was still in the center of the map. So I had to come up with a clever little bit of code so that as I drive west, the pixels all shift to the right, and as I drive south, the pixels all shift up, and vice versa for each of the other directions. So now everything is working quite nicely. But it looks like we've got a reasonably strong tornado head in here. I've also replaced the vegetation. So originally I was using Terra World for the vegetation spawning. I've since got Vegetation Studio, which lets you set up custom rules. And what I've done is I've just cranked the density right down, because while it's nice to have dense trees and grass, that's not the primary focus of the game. The primary focus of the game is the tornadoes, so there's no point having a really dense wooded area which is then going to give us 10 frames a second. So as you can see, I'm getting almost 60 frames a second now. In the truck it's a little bit slow, because when you get into the truck there's the systems which run in the background, so it's like preparing radar textures and things for when you open the radar screen. So you get lower frames per second, but not by much. Look, 52 frames a second, 40. It does depend on the direction you're looking. This is the river, which is, right now it's just a 2D plane texture, so it looks like ice. I might just keep it that way, to be honest. So we've got this cell moving in. So what I'm going to do is try and make these customizable, so if you're running on a high-end system, if you've got your RTX 4999s, whatever they're up to now, and you've somehow managed to get it running without all your PSU cables melting. So there's our first tornado, nice wedge formed over there. And something I've done as well, I'll try and show here. So notice how the tornadoes behind the trees, previously there'd be like a blue flickering around that. There was a clever anti-aliasing trick somebody showed. So don't want to get too technical because this isn't meant to be a technical stream. But there's a thing called a depth texture, which is, imagine a black and white image of all the objects in the scene, and imagine, for example, black means that object is really far away, and white means it's right up close to the camera. So while you have anti-aliasing available for like the coloured render that you see on the screen now, the depth texture doesn't actually get anti-aliased, so I had to manually do that. So you can see we're still getting some flickering. I actually think that's to do with Weather Maker, because it's not around the tornado. So anyway, what I have to do is, when I'm sampling from the depth texture, I also sample some other points around it, and then take the smallest value in that vicinity. And essentially what it means is we don't get that horrible nasty flickering when there's an object between us and the tornado. So let's try and get in front of that. That looks like a nice big wedge tornado. The game is looking better. Oh, that's good to hear. So like, what I don't want to do is put in a few weeks work and then have people say, oh yeah, it was better that 3 weeks ago before you started working on it. So yes, thanks for that. I'm glad it's looking better. I can probably push the vegetation density up a bit, but for the sake of the stream I want it to be nice and smooth. So 45 frames a second, that's definitely playable. I'd say the minimum I'd accept is about 25 frames per second, ideally 30 or more. So let us catch up with, so that blue flickering you're seeing there is actually to do with Weather Maker and not my own code. So what I need to do is probably set the secondary cloud layer, so those kind of cirrus clouds, or well, the altocumulus, they need to be set to darker. Oh, there's another tornado over there, so we've got a big wedge here and a smaller, it looks like a small little cone or stovepipe over there. Starting to get raindrops on the windscreen. I've cranked that up so it does get really heavy, to the point that in the tornado core it's very difficult to see out the windscreen. I will in future versions get windscreen wipers working. That is something that's available with the library I'm using to render raindrops. But as of right now, just the amount of work that I have to go in just to get the windscreen wipers working, I think it would delay it too much. For people who don't know, I'm assuming if you're watching this you saw the announcement on the server, but pre-alpha testing applications are open. And I'm thinking the way I'm going to do this, to be fair to everyone, is I'm likely going to go through the applications and choose 10 people from a range of backgrounds. So I'm looking at people who are experienced and inexperienced in terms of storm chase, and experienced like daily hardcore gamers and casual gamers, and people with different programming backgrounds as well, because I think when people play test a game, when you have a programming background you think of things slightly differently than if you don't. So looking to get a mix of backgrounds and experiences. So I think what I'll do is I'll choose 10 people and then have my wife separately do the same exercise, and where there's overlap, those will likely be the people who will be chosen for pre-alpha testing. Do you have to do, about the pre-alpha, do you have to do a VC? I'm assuming VC, you mean voice chat with that? So pre-alpha testing, the point of that is just to get feedback, so whatever the best way is for whoever's testing to give that feedback. So whether somebody wants to record a video and update it, whether they want to have like a voice call on the server, or even just written is like an email or a post on the Discord, it's fine, just as long as they're getting some sort of feedback so I know how I can improve the game. Just realised I haven't actually chosen a mission, so let's do that now. So I want a decently paying mission. There's no $7,000 for 200 F1 samples in 5 minutes. That's going to be a mad dash. Let's go for it. We're getting 60-mile-an-hour winds. This thing must be a beast. Let's wait for the radar screen to load. So that's an F4, and we're behind it because look, we're in the trail, so we need to try and get ahead of that. Best way of doing that, ooh, this is going to be tight. North, then east, then north again. Let's see if we can do this. To be fair, to get F1 samples, we don't even need to be in the path of it. We just need to get up close enough that we're in the within F1 wind speeds right now. Question: what are the F1 scale on the bottom right? That's a good question. So for the mission I've chosen right now, we need to get 200 samples of at least an F1 wind speed strength for within 5 minutes, and then we'll get paid the mission amount. What this is showing is the number of samples that are taken, and you can get samples by either deploying the probe in the bed of the truck, and there's also, they're not modelled, but for the sake of the gameplay, there's think of it as truck-mounted probes. So they take samples at a lower rate, so it's a bit more convenient because you can just drive up to the tornado and you don't have to guess which way it's going. But it takes samples, as you can see, it's taking one sample about every 3 seconds or so, every 2 seconds. So it's just a way of gathering extra samples without having to deploy the probe, because it takes a bit of time to get out the truck, figure out if you're on an intercept path, deploy the probe, wait to collect the samples, and if you then once the tornado's passing, then have to put it back in the truck, try and get ahead again. And I've noticed, if you watch the early streams, I was finding it very difficult to get my own, essentially level up using the own mission leveling up system that I've developed. So 120 miles an hour now, so I think we can deploy the probe. Got another cell popping up there to our south. So if you pay attention, look, before when I was climbing up the truck, I was getting like 15 frames a second. I'm getting spikes up to like 65 frames a second, 50 frames a second. This is a low-end laptop. This is not anything special. So yeah, so to answer your question, the bottom right of the screen shows how many readings are left. So this will take a number of readings before it needs to be reset. You reset it by loading it back into your truck and then deploying it again. And it shows how many readings you got left and how many readings of each strength you've got. So as you can see here, from our vantage point, we are getting... Oh, and for those who haven't seen, 90s mode. It's showing us how many probes we've got. 2 questions. I might have asked this before, but will it be rain-wrapped tornadoes? Anyway, you can't see. So I do want to try and do that. That's a good question. I like that question. And 2, will some tornadoes go faster than you can drive? Oh! So that sound effect there means we've completed the mission, which means we've got $7,000. So if we go into the truck now, $7,000, we can upgrade our max speed from 85 to 90 miles an hour. So let's go ahead and do that now. So the way I've done it, I'll have to double check this. The way I did this in the logic for the code is that I think it's never more than about 80 or 90% of your truck's max speed. Just because it is difficult to upgrade, to collect samples and upgrade and earn money. So it's made even more difficult if the tornadoes move too quick. I think that's starting to rope out now. So they never go faster than the max speed of your car. Just it wasn't that much fun. It turned into a driving simulator essentially, where you just be driving around, desperately trying to catch up and get in front of tornadoes, and it wasn't great. So yeah, but going back to your first question, rain-wrapped tornadoes. So if you noticed before, there's like a greyish fog when the wind speed picks up and the rain is very intense. So what I'm thinking is, I'm going to take that, maybe you can do a difficult mode. Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, this cell's going to fall apart on top of us. Sorry, I do have the tendency to have a million thoughts at once. This actually reminds me of how the F5 ropes out at the end of Twister, where you kind of have these individual shafts of cloud. So, going back to the question, what I want to do is take that particle system of horizontal mist, essentially, going across the ground, turn that into a vertical system, so it's coming from the top down, like rain shafts, and then make sure it's the density is thick enough that it obscures the tornado. I do want to try and do that. I'm at the point now where I've got to balance adding new features with actually getting this ready for pre-alpha testing, and from that point, when it's ready for pre-alpha testing, I then need to get recordings in game to then advertise this on Steam, so that it can be up for 2 weeks and I can get people wish listing it and start promoting it. Let's head to, this is a massive cell here, so let's head east, west. Yeah, I think north, south, east, west directions are very much an American thing. So when I was in Nevada, it was north, south, east, and west made sense because you have a road grid, and because of the position of the mountains, you could just look and be like, oh, okay, that I think was a Sheep Mountain, so he was to the north. And you could easily tell north, south, east, and west because of the road grid, and you could see for quite a distance, and the landmark features made that easier. In the UK, the roads are just like a child's scribble on a piece of paper. They're just all over the place with no real rhyme or reason to the design of them. So because of that, north, south, east, west, there's no road grid, so north, south, east, and west aren't helpful. So we tend to not use those directions. So I'm not used to thinking in terms of north, south, east, and west. Let's see. Suggestion: can you make it so that you have to start up the probe, like flip the buttons you'll need to click? Oh, so I did actually have that. If you, it might be on some very, very early videos on the channel. I originally made a model of Dorothy from Twister, and you could click the switches and have the siren and stuff come on. I decided to move away from that, just with the sequel coming out. It's not even a sequel anymore. That's a rant for another time. But I did have that, so you'd have a little dot on the screen to show where your mouse pointer was. You could then interact with the buttons. So if you look, why is the window like that on the left side? Why is the window like what? Oh, so sometimes, because it uses some GPU rendering to render the raindrops, I have a script which needs to tell it to clear the windscreen. Whoa, that road's a bit, needs some fixing. I need a script, so every 10 seconds or so it says, okay, clear all the raindrops on the screen and start rendering new ones. So I can't remember if I set that to 10 seconds or 30 seconds. So if you drive through some really heavy rain, just like it's popping up again now, it needs to be told to clear those raindrops out. It is a little bit glitchy right now, and that's to do with how the UVs on the 3D model map to the rain texture that's used. Hopefully I can get that, figure out what that is. Hopefully that's a minor fix. Yeah. So going back to that, what I am thinking of doing is, if you watch some of the early footage of Toto being deployed, there's a little box on the very top of the barrel, and what I do is, you can't see inside of it because of the camera angle, but what they do is they flip a little lid open, and there's at least one switch, there might be multiple, to power the unit up, and then the flip the lid's shut. So I might just reintroduce that. So I just need to have a lid open, lid close animation, and then trigger it based on where you click. Good look. Looks like there's another cell forming there to our right. Ohio roads be like, yeah. In the UK, we use the worst road surface. So we do have a range of temperatures. So in the winter it can get down to -10, -15 or colder, and depending where you are in the country. And then in the summer we can hit 25, 30. Last summer we actually it was record-breaking summer, hit like 38 degrees here in the northeast of England. And I was on that day, I filled up a IKEA box full of water and put it under my desk and just sat with my feet in it and worked. So yeah, so you see we get a range of temperatures, but to be fair, you do in Las Vegas as well. So the summer temperatures can be 120 Fahrenheit. Winter can be below 30 still. But the roads still don't have the pothole issues that we have here in England. The road surfaces here just... what happens is it's cheap and pretty naff and pretty bumpy. Then you get potholes opening up. Then because it's England, it rains 7 times a day. So then they fill with water. Then in the winter, the water freezes and expands and pushes open potholes. The local council then spend about 50 pence of the 200 quid a month tax we pay, and that's just the local council tax, to get somebody with a shovel to put some, like, I don't know what it is, it's like these little, I don't know, like tar mixed with little pebbles or something, and pat it down with a shovel or the foot, ready for it to open up again in about 2 or 3 weeks time. And it's just rinse repeat. It's just roads which are constantly being patched and falling apart. Oh, evil Disney villain laugh. Have you gone to the magical land of northern Mexico? No, I haven't. I don't know if that's a Disney reference. I'm not privy to. My wife is the Disney expert. Only states. So I've been to Nevada, Utah, California, and then I've passed through, let's see, the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, which interestingly they had that massive cell with the strong hook move through a few days ago. I have to find a less steep way around here. I've also stopped at Atlanta. And then one time shortly after 9/11 we got diverted on a jumbo jet, got diverted to Boston because a bag got left on board that wasn't supposed to be there. We got told this, I think we were somewhere over the US, 3 weeks after September 11th, so of course everyone was really nervous, but me being a child at the time was oblivious to what people were worried about. Yeah, so we got diverted and were on the ground in Boston for a while they unloaded it. I'm from Michigan. What are roads? Oh, they have holes. Yeah, we sometimes call them craters. Some of them are just ridiculous. I think the common issue, not to get too political here, but I think the common issue is that governments are in charge of roads, which means that it's just a budget which gets allocated somewhat willy-nilly, and a lot of money just goes to waste. It's like, yeah, they might spend, say, X million fixing roads, but like 90% of that's just gone to middle managers and all sorts of pointless people whose job is just to tick boxes. Let's get in front of this. Got almost a stovepipe there. It's a weird black thing that goes through your dirt roads. Some of the roads, so he's got auto-placed, which means that there's weird wrinkles in them somewhere. I need to manually go over every stretch of road. I don't know how much road there is in this, but it's probably several tens of miles, if not 100 miles or more. Let's get another... What strength is this tornado? Has anybody died? Good, nobody's died, so at least we're doing our job while we're neglecting the people. Right, that loaded up weird. So we've got F3, F2, 300 F2 samples in 50 minutes, and I will have to stop the stream in about 5 or 10 minutes. Is there the suck zone of the tornado? Aside from Road Talk, game looks fantastic. But people are liking the look of the game. Like say, I'm running this at 40 frames a second on pretty low-end hardware. I would suggest if you're playing for alpha testing, you probably want at least a dedicated graphics card. I don't think Intel graphics is integrated graphics is going to cut it, but I would be interested to know how it runs on integrated graphics. So I know what the graphics settings need to be, at least to get it running reasonably well. So we need to get some F3 samples. So I don't know if this is an F3. Our car can go up to, what's it now, 150 miles an hour. That's something else I've upgraded. Is the suck zone of the tornado? So the strongest wind speeds are inside the funnel. I haven't said a specific area where anything special happens. I'm just using some formulas which are published for modelling wind fields around tornadoes. One thing I still need to remember to do is to tag the truck as interactable with the tornado funnel, so we start getting pulled around and with the tornadic winds. So I remember when the game used to be a randomly generated tornado saving game. I remember releasing the first demo. Randomly generated. Are you referring to the very first version of I think it's called Twister Research and Rescue, and I posted this, what was it, almost 2 years ago now, and it was like a little crappy red car, like free asset, and the tornado was just random blobs of cloud. And if that's what you're referring to, yeah, I remember that. And this game isn't even built at all on anything I did in that game. I kind of scrapped that completely and started afresh for this, so nothing from that side is in this game. Should we do this in... Do you have a vote? Do you want 90s mode for this intercept or 2010s mode? I don't think this tornado's even F3 strength. Spent like 1 year working. Yeah, I spent several months actually. I forget how much now, 6 or 8 months, and I'm still to this day just on the tornado funnel rendering. I wanted to get that looking as good as possible first, and customizable and flexible, and then I started building the game, like the game and the gameplay mechanics around that. Okay, we're taking F1 samples, but what mission have we got? Oh, okay. Another $1,500 there. Not going to complain about that. $300 F1 samples pays $9,000. Taking that. Might as well make use of this F1 tornado while we're at it. Need a TIV. Yeah, I think there's... Oh, 90s mode. Okay, let's put 90s mode on. Let's do a 90s intercept. So let's power through this core. Get in front of the tornado, and then we'll deploy. Well, that lightning looked cool there. I think I might use that as the channel thumbnail for the next stream. Whoa, getting some good lightning here. Tornado's right behind us. It's too dusty to see clearly. Let's try and place ourselves right in front of it. There it is. Right, I think there's a road here. As soon as I get on the road, I'm going to get out and deploy. Don't think I'm in the right position here. Whoa, what happened there? It just disappeared. Just like that, it's gone. No one could replicate your modding skills. So, you were the king modder. Actually, there's somebody else who started modding a lot as well. I do apologise that I'm struggling to recall the name right now, but there's somebody else who got very involved with modding and actually helped me out as well. To whoever that is, you know who you are. But yeah, I'm glad people appreciated the mods. I do have several posts about, well, you see this windscreen's glitching out a bit there. It will eventually clear with time. Yeah, so going back to mods, I do see the comments and messages, people asking if I'm releasing the mods. And for now, I'm just saying no, because I'm fairly busy. So I do have 2 young children to look after. And nearing the end of my PhD, and I'm starting a fellowship. And because of that, time is just quite scarce, so any time I do have, I'd rather put into developing this game rather than going back and trying to find old files for Storm Chasers, since Storm Chasers is abandoned. So for now, I'm not really focusing on releasing old mods. I don't actually know where I backed up or if I backed up the files, and because Storm Chasers has been abandoned, I've kind of moved away from it as well. I don't think it was me who made the Storm Chasers Realism mod. Was it me? I can't remember. Yes, there's somebody else who's making the SC Realism mod. That was me. I think I tried to make a few aspects more realistic, but I think that was around the time I was starting to lose interest in Storm Chasers as well. Okay, I am going to have to end the stream shortly. What we'll do is we'll do this last intercept. We've got 6 minutes left, so we'll make this the last mission. Hopefully the windscreen... Oh, there we go. Windscreen's cleared now. So we'll intercept this tornado. What's the mission again? I forget what the mission parameters are. 300 F1 samples. I think we can do that. $9,000. Is that enough? That's enough to upgrade the max speed to 100, which means the next stream will be really fun. Yes, I think that's... I forget the name. I think they might have changed the Discord handle a few times, which is why I'm struggling to recall. Okay, we may catch some air here. Looks like we're taking off. Looks like Flight Simulator. Right, there it is. Should we have some guesses in chat what strength this tornado is? I'm going to guess, based on its rotation speed, that it's... I'm going to guess F1. I'm going to be pessimistic and guess F1. But we'll get a probe in there and we'll see... what wind speed it actually is. Looks like it's moving pretty slow, so we've got a good chance of getting in front of it. Let's let the radar refresh, and we'll figure out where to position ourselves. I've lost my situational awareness a bit. Okay, so we need to keep heading south. Okay, so we'll head south, and then it looks like that's heading south as well, so we just need to turn right and put ourselves in front of it. AF1 to 2. Okay, people are saying AF1, AF2. I thought you had other point of views on the car, like you can view the top. Oh, I know which one. The very, very first one. Yeah, where the tornado would just follow you around the map. Yes, the game's come on a long way since then. Excuse me. Just gotta jump. Okay. Yeah, what I've done is I've kind of stuck to a first-person view. I think after the alpha testing, if people really want a third-person camera view while you're in the car, I can do that. But for now, I'm just trying to stick to first-person to make it a bit of a simulator slash first-person sort of role-playing game. Okay, who thinks we can do the get 300 samples of at least F1 wind speed in the next 4.5 minutes? The probe samples at, I think it's 3 per second, so it needs to be in there for at least 1:40. But the truck can survive 150 mile/hour wind speeds. Let's just do a barrel roll. I do need to fix the truck physics. It was laggy. Oh yeah, so the laggy stream as well. Where's the tornado? Is it roped out on us again? Seems to be a thing where you get close enough, it suddenly just disappears. Yeah, part of that was to do with low frame rates and needing to be optimized. Oh, I see why it suddenly disappeared. Okay, and so we've just seen 2 tornadoes which have suddenly disappeared. The reason for that is they've gone off the edge of the map. And remember in Storm Chasers, those who played Storm Chasers, a tornado would go off the end of the map and you'd have to wait forever for it to then despawn and a new one to spawn, and that just was boring. So now what I do is I make it instantly as soon as it goes off the edge of the map, start spawning somewhere else within the map. I think we're going to be hard pushed to get these 300 samples in the next 3 minutes 20, but I'm going to go for it. It's not over till the countdown hits 0, and you also receive a partial payment, so I think you receive 75% of what you would have got, multiplied by the ratio. So if you get, say, half of the samples you needed for the mission, you'd get paid half of what the mission stated, then you'd have another like 25% subtracted from that. But I do need to fix the vehicle physics. It's just, there's so many parameters to tweak, and it's much easier to break things than it is to make things work well. Please don't abandon this project. So thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you think it's looking good. I'm not going to abandon this. I've put too much time and money, and there's a lot of interest in it as well. Like, I'd only really abandon this if I'd be tempted to abandon this if the community abandoned it. So if there was zero interest, I'd likely just finish up the game quietly, just for my own enjoyment. But as long as there's people interested, like, I fully intend on getting this alpha tested and then released on Steam, and then continuing to support it as long as I'm able to. And if I'm not able to, hopefully the game has developed enough that could potentially have dedicated people to support the game. Right, so I don't think we've only got 3 seconds now before we'd have to have had the probe in the tornado, so I'm just going to drive right into the center of that and then deploy. Yeah, Little Band, the game SP. Yeah, I know, it's because his game, it was Jeff Favonio and some other big YouTubers were playing his game. And you must have seen a surge in players or sales, and then suddenly he was just gone. I think I have somebody did send me a direct message. Somebody's doing a video about the kind of the rise and fall of Storm Chasers, and asked me to comment and speculate a bit on what could have happened. One thing, I don't want to repeat everything that's going to be in that video. But kind of the key thing is it did happen, I believe, during lockdown. I know that was a very difficult time for a lot of people, and it could have just been a case of you had a lot going on, plus the pandemic, and the game was just taking up too much of his time, and maybe the best thing to do was to just completely walk away from it, rather than having the additional stress of trying to support it. It would have been nice to have some sort of heads up, but we don't know what was going on. Right, let's do 90s mode. We don't know what was going on, so I can't say it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm guessing Little Cloud did what he had to do during the time with regards to the game. Okay, I think we could quickly take another mission and just earn some money here. 5.5, right. We're going to do this in 90s mode. Oh, I've exceeded the max wind speed, 160 miles an hour. Let's just back off a bit. Where's the mission screen? Let's do that. Let's just get a probe deployed. Look how violently that thing's rotating. I want to get out and actually get some video footage of this. Look at that. Oh no, my truck's running away. I forgot to fix. That's one thing I need to remember to fix. The car running off like that. But look at that, look how violently that thing is rotating. Got what looks to be, I haven't modelled this, but just appears to be a ghost train rear inflow jet. Look at that thing twist. That looks really cool. I'm actually really happy with that myself. And look, 63 frames a second, 64 frames a second. And then in VHS mode, that'll trail off a bit, but 40 frames a second, even 25 frames a second in VHS mode is very good. It's a lot of strain on the hardware. What if Little Cloud joined the Outbreak team? He could have, potentially. I haven't heard any mention of that. Maybe it's something they keep in secret and it's going to be like a surprise reveal. I've just got to say I'm very happy with how this stream has gone. I feel like that tornado, I really like the look of that tornado. It's got like turbulent flow around the debris cloud, funnels, dynamic. All these are randomly generated, these tornadoes, so you won't see any tornadoes the same. 65 frames a second, not having any issues with frame rate. Look how smooth the camera movement is. VHS mode also looks really nice. And being able to upgrade the truck as well. There's been no massive bugs I've noticed in this. I do need to figure out the windshield bug. That's a fairly minor one. And the car driving away when you get out issue. But other than that, there's been no game-breaking things. Just submitted your form. Thank you for appreciate everyone taking the time to apply for the pre-alpha testing. Okay, I probably will need to end this stream. I just can't stop looking at this tornado. Let's just follow this on foot. And just for the last few minutes, I think I'll talk about my thoughts on Supercell. So, for those who don't know or haven't seen it, Supercell, it's a movie that was just released on Friday. It's got Alec Baldwin, the one who shot someone in real life, apparently accidentally, and also what's his name, Skeet Ulrich. I know him from the TV series Jethro. The player Storm Chasers. The movie is okay. It's probably in terms of the models and the lingo, it's probably the most accurate. Like, they're using the College of DuPage website for the models. They show like surface maps and dew points and wind barbs, dry lines, and they discuss things like cape and helicity and the bear's cage. The terminology is more accurate than in Twister, so it's not just people saying like, oh look, we've got upflow, oh look, a flanking line on the ground, oh look, we're in the bear's cage, oh look, horizontal rain, and just throwing out random terminology that doesn't really have any context and doesn't really make any sense. So it is accurate in that way, but it does not come close to Twister at all. It's an okay movie. It's mainly focused on character development rather than being a storm chasing movie, and it's got no real CGI in it. It's composited footage, which has been green screened over some footage. So the tornado scenes are okay. I was really excited looking at the trailer, but it just wasn't. I don't think it really lived up to the hype. Yeah, I don't think I think some of the cases like, so I'm trying not to give too many spoilers, but there's a scene where somebody's reversing quickly, and just the way the tour van's moving in that scene, it looks a bit CGI. The movements just don't look very natural and look a bit too jerky. So there may be some CGI in terms of the vehicles, and maybe there's things being touched here and there, but from what I know, it's all being green screened on. I can also press tab to get the computer effect, but that's something I just forgot to fix. And then I did make some notes actually of how it's similar to Twister. Let me just open that up. So I'll quickly go through my notes of how, in which way Supercell. So there's one pretty obvious shout out to Twister. So the main character's dad's name was Bill Brody, and while he's googling his dad's name Bill, Google autocomplete's coming up underneath, and for a split second it has Bill Paxton come up, and then it changes to Bill Brody as he types. So I think that's just a little nod to Twister. And something that's similar is that both Twister and Supercell start with a young child in the house, with Gary England on the TV giving a tornado warning while specifically mentioning Kingfisher County. They both have that in. And then you've also got the tragic death of a father at the beginning of the film, and followed by a transition to the future with the main character grown older. And obviously the overlap of the main character called Bill. And in one scene you actually hear wind chimes in the background. So I don't know whether that was intentional or not, but that's a bit of a nod to Aunt Meg. There's the mention of the finger of God, which again is mentioned in Twister. And there's also kind of a tarp reveal. So at the beginning of Twister, when they talk about Dorothy, and it's revealed there's like a tarp, and the tarp's pulled off the back of the Jeep. and you see Dorothy, and it's kind of how they reveal Dorothy. There's also later in the film there's another truck which is revealed, and it's a similar thing as the top over it, and then the top's pulled away to reveal the truck. And then the last one I kind of noticed was there's a scene where people are in a diner, and then things start kicking off, and people are slamming laptop lids shut and running and jumping into trucks and driving off, just like the diner scene in Twister. So those are the similarities there. So what movie are we talking about? Supercell. It's available on Amazon Prime and iTunes in the US. Look at the motion in the bottom of the funnel there. Sorry, I'm just so happy with that. I'm really happy with how. There's something cool where you create something that's randomized, and something you've made yourself surprises you. That's also part of what's one of the brilliant things about having children as well. Obviously, this doesn't compare to having a child, but it's a similar sort of thing. Sometimes, one of my daughters, she's almost 3, and toddlers see the world in just a different way than adults do, and it's just amazing some of the things that come out with. Yeah, there's just something amazing about seeing something you created do something you didn't expect. That's one of the joys of programming, and I guess of life and of being a parent as well. Yeah, so talking about Supercell 2023, I think it's a 4.5 on IMDb. If I had to give it an IMDb style rating, I would say probably about a 5.5 in terms of overall movie. In terms of storm chasing movies, maybe a 6.5. It's better than did I actually hear I can hear my truck crashing into things. I'd say it's still better than what's that crappy one called with the fake Tiv? Into the Storm. I'd say it's better than Into the Storm has better CGI, but I think the storyline and characters and overall realism were better. So I'd say bottom of the heap is Into the Storm. I'd probably say actually worse than Into the Storm is Tornado, the 1996 budget twister called Tornado. I didn't even finish watching that; it was terrible. So Tornado, followed by Into the Storm. Then I'd say quite a jump up. Night of the Twisters is actually quite a good film. It's a bit cheesy, but that was one of my favourite Tornado films as a child, and it's still quite good. Even rewatching it as an adult. Yeah. Then I'd probably say Supercell, and then you can't beat Twister. Twister is still the king of Tornado films. What's about Into the Storm? Twister, hands down, not even a competition. Like, just even if you had nothing from Twister, but just the score, the musical score for it, just even that, like, as soon as I hear like Wheatfield or pretty much any of the oh, look how nice the sky looks right now. Look how stormy it is. I'm just instantly transported back to childhood, and I can, just giving the soundtrack, I can quote exactly the what's been said in the dialogue, and also any sound effects which occur at the same time as well. Into the Storm is not even memorable. I don't even know what the music's like in Into the Storm. I've got to say, Into the Storm has some really nice CGI in terms of the barn getting ripped apart and some houses getting ripped apart. The last F5, honestly, I wasn't that impressed. But I'm going to stay on just a little bit longer because we're going to hopefully see these funnels start to turn red as the sun starts to set. And that's going to make a beautiful thumbnail for the next stream. If it doesn't rope out before sunset. What time is it in game? 5:15 at the 1st of March. Which was fire tornadoes? Yeah, just a bit. The fire tornadoes were cool. Okay, the colours are starting to change on the funnel. Let's see if we can position ourselves to get a better look at everything. Yeah, it's much better without the VHS camera for now. Look at that. Got the sun setting over there. Got the tornado funnel lit up. The fire tornadoes are pretty cool. My favourite, we've got to say, like the narrower kind of drill bit tornadoes. I like those and like the destruction. It looked pretty good. just the overall storyline. The characters were very flat. I didn't relate to the characters at all. Like there's one scene where the character is about to drown, and to be honest, the only reason I didn't want them to drown is because drowning's a nasty way to die. But you just don't have the characters. Like, you don't. There's not going to be another Philip Seymour Hoffman or Bill Paxton or anything, and the dynamics between them as well. Like something. Want to give a shout out to Sean Whalen. He's far more famous than I am with my 500 subscribers. But if you go to Sean Whalen's website, he's got a behind the scenes like Twister sort of discussion sort of thing. You can buy it. It's like $7 or $8. But he talks about like the interactions the actors had with each other off screen, and how a lot of the things on screen, like for example, the scene where just after the water spouts where they're shouting food, and I think it's Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I think it's Sean Whalen as well. They're kind of like doing this kind of thing with the fingers together. He said that's the sort of things that just do while waiting to shoot. That was just them, and they just had really good dynamics between all the actors, which obviously copied, like, really showed in the actual film as well. You just I don't know, just you don't seem to have that soul in films anymore, like personality. Like a lot of films now are just reboots, rehashes, remakes. No one wants to take a risk anymore. So I have run like 20 minutes over the time I said I was going to stream. But I'm happy to continue the discussion on Supercell over on Discord another day or maybe on the next stream, but I am going to have to go now. But thank you everyone who's commented. I really appreciate the positive feedback. It really helps motivate me to keep working on the game and make it as good as possible. So I'm going to have to sign out now, but thank you everyone. Have a good evening or afternoon or morning depending on your time zone. It's evening here, and I'm going to have to sign out. Night everyone.